region to Rafah city.
And that was Khada Wada, freelance journalist, speaking to me from Rafah in southern Gaza. Well, earlier I spoke to the Israeli government spokesman, Avi Hyman. I asked for his reaction to the UN report warning of imminent famine in the north of the Gaza Strip.
Well, I would reject that. We've heard from the beginning of the war that famine was imminent, but we know that 80% more food has gone into Gaza since the war started than the amount of food that was going in before. The problem isn't getting food into Gaza; rather, the problem is stopping Hamas from stealing it.
So you're rejecting not the qualification that this is being used as a weapon of war, but the mere fact that famine is imminent.
I would reject both of those premises. Israel is doing its absolute utmost to go after Hamas while getting aid to the civilians that need it.
You don't feel responsibility for the fact that there are clearly many people in Gaza at this moment have very, very little access to food. And there is evidence that there are people, you might dispute the scale of it, but there are clearly people who are starving at the moment.
The humanitarian crisis in Gaza was caused by Hamas. When they invaded our borders, Hamas brought it upon themselves. We will do our absolute utmost to get aid through. We're working on various new ways, both with the private sector and with various international organizations and governments around the world to get the aid where it needs to go. Now, I'm not denying that there might be pockets within Gaza that are harder to get to, but we are working to improve that on a day-to-day basis. And Hamas is trying to steal it on a day-to-day basis.
You're talking about new ways. International agencies are saying the problem is there are plenty of old ways, far more efficient ways, just getting trucks across the border. The EU foreign policy chief said today, look, the problem is hundreds of trucks are waiting at the border. The ones who control the border prevent them from coming in.
There are no limits. I'll repeat myself. There are no limits on the amount of aid that can go into Gaza. The issue is with international organizations and the international community not sending enough aid. They can send more aid. We will ship it in.
So why is the need for all these new ways of trying to get in? Why is there the need for the ships to be coming in for the airdrops if you're doing everything you can?
Hamas is stealing the aid. So we're working on all different types of logistical ways, be it by air, by sea, but moving in through opening up additional gates and entrances into Gaza. We're doing our absolute utmost to get the aid to the people that need it and avoid it being stolen by Hamas or by UN organizations and other international organizations that are working in cahoots with Hamas and have been since the beginning of the war.
Other international organizations, who do you think is working in cahoots with Hamas? I mean, you've definitely pointed a finger at UNRWA. We've heard that, but other international agencies?
I'll point the finger, like you said, at UNRWA. Employees of UNRWA participated in the October 7th massacre. They've been perpetuating this conflict for generations.
President Biden has spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu today, and the Americans have been pretty open. They are very worried that you do not have a plan to evacuate civilians from Rafah. Have you shared one with the Biden administration?
My Prime Minister has been very clear on Rafah from day one. He has asked for a plan to be presented to him, a two-pronged plan to evacuate the civilians and then to go after the last 4 Hamas battalions and win the war.
Is there a plan that exists now to get those people out?
There is a plan, and the Prime Minister has approved the plan. I won't be discussing that on air. What I will tell you
but it's been shared with the Americans because clearly they are very concerned that you cannot do this without huge civilian casualties.
There are ongoing discussions with the Americans. There have been from day one. They're our closest ally. What I can tell you is that we have to go after Hamas in Rafah. There's a historic precedent of moving populations out of harm's way.
But there's nowhere else for them to go in Gaza, is there?
Well, that's not true. We have cleared areas and we will continue to clear areas and we will put them in safe islands within Gaza. There's plenty of space.
Within Gaza, so they will not be moved outside of Gaza?
Well, absolutely not.
Can I ask you about the talks that are taking place at the same time as you are putting in place preparations to wipe out Hamas? You are potentially talking to them about a ceasefire deal. Where do things stand? Israeli negotiators are taking part in the latest round of talks?
Hamas are holding 134 Israelis. We will work all diplomatic channels open to us to ensure that those hostages are returned to their family as soon as possible. Now, we've already achieved that. We got 111 home. And the way that we did that was two-pronged. Firstly, it was the military pressure, which we are continuing to apply on Hamas. And now we're doing the same. We are pursuing diplomatic channels, and we are continuing to up the pressure on Hamas.
That was Israeli government spokesman Avi Hyman, and he talked about the UN agency UNRWA there. UNRWA has condemned the October the 7th attack, saying the Israeli allegations against it, if true, are a betrayal of UN values and of the people that UNRWA serves. Well, let's speak now to Wall Street Journal Middle East reporter Benoit Faucon, who's on the line.